I'm in the woods and I'm not riding, but I'm finally out the boot and I've come up to see Dan Bateson riding in the woods. But I've been looking at the comments in recent videos and a lot of people want to see my bike and how it's set up. So I brought the bike up with me. I'm walking, it feels really, really good. Probably gonna be riding within 2 weeks time, so I'm buzzing. But here is my propane bike's Tyee, my enduro bike, the bike I use for all the EWS races. And I'm going to ask Dan to kindly hold the camera and we're going to go through top to bottom exactly what's on there, how I set it all up and why I really like it. Will you help me, Dan?
I'll help you, John.
Thanks, Dan.
No worries, mate.
All good? Right, we're filming.
We're filming, yeah.
Propane bike's Tyee. This is a 160mm rear, 170mm front enduro bike. It's what I use for the EWS, like I've said. It's carbon fibre frame. They do an aluminium one, a bit cheaper. I like the carbon, it's just a bit lighter, a bit stiffer, but a lot of people, including Phil Atwell, my teammate, do like the aluminium frame, so I don't think there's much in it. They're both awesome, but for me, carbon fibre, pedalling up a lot of hills, I do like the weight benefit. There's a few different colours for the different aluminium and the carbon ones. I think this looks sick. Really, really pleased with it. It's called Bad Mint. It's like a matte finish, and I couldn't be happier. So let's start at the top with what you hold on to on every ride, the grips. These are DMR Death Grips. They're a cheap little add-on on your bike. They're not expensive, but they feel really good. They last quite a long time, and they've got these flanges, which I think looks well BMX, which I actually cut off on the bottom just so you can feel the shifter and stuff. Self-preference, but I keep the full flange on the other side. And they bolt on with no outside lock, which is a nice little part of these grips. There's not a lock-on point on the outside that sort of rubs on your hand. Is that enough? I don't know.
That's quite a lot about a grip, John, yeah. What's it made from?
The rubber.
That's rubber, nice.
Onto Unite bars. 35mm width, so really, really stiff. Bar and stem combo from Unite Components. You can buy that as a pair, the bar and the stem, for pretty cheap. Two components have never let me down. Really pleased with them. This, maybe I can talk about my EWS number board. Pretty proud of that. It's a big number though. We need to get that number down. Brakes are crucial. These are XTR Shimano brakes, so probably the top end mountain bike, sort of enduro downhill Shimano brakes. For years and years on Shimano I ran Saint brakes and the power on them is probably unrivaled. I've not tried all the brakes, but Saint brakes are lethal power. These have got similar power, but you can modulate them a lot more. There's a nicer feel, and you'll see these a lot for Shimano riders on the World Cup downhill circuit and the EWS circuit. Super, super popular brakes. Where should we go next, Dan? Shifter?
Yeah, it's a nice shifter.
It's a nice shifter, Dan, isn't it?
Yeah, lovely
Get
shifter.
in there, get in there. That is an XTR, again, from Shimano. It matches on to the brake lever, which is a real nice touch. So you just have one bolt around the bar and the shifter and the brake all mount to that same thing. I believe that's called I-spec, that matching, but am I right, Dan?
I've no idea, John, but it sounds right. Say it with confidence.
It's I-spec. Same story on a Fox dropper lever. Again, one bolt on the bars, but that all mounts on. So that's a Fox dropper post. I have a, I'm going to say 170mm travel post. I've got quite long legs. I'd like to use a 200, but I want to be able to slam the seat post for the descents on the EWS circuit. And if I've got a 200, yes, it's longer here, but it's also longer in the frame. So it just sits out a little bit too much for me. So that I can slam it, I just deal with the lack of height so that I can slam it, get it out of the way, and it's not bunging me up the bum. Some people like that, don't they, Dan?
Yeah, some people do, but it's not my preference, John.
I don't know.
Maybe yours, maybe yours.
Before we move past the frame, I've got a frame protector kit, a dyed bro frame protector kit. It's clear, so it's not got one of the cool patterns that they sell, but I do like the colour of this bike and I don't want to cover that up just yet. They're very cheap, but they protect your bike from scratches, all sorts. You peel that off and your bike looks brand new. Or you can get a really cool design and change the look of your bike for not a lot of money. Suspension. Suspension is something that everyone's sort of got a bit of a myth about. No one likes talking about their suspension setup. People do more and more now. I knew when I used to grow up racing, always growing up, but when I grew up racing, I'd always want to know what the pros ran for their settings and just assume that it'd be the right thing for me. Knowing is really helpful, and I'll tell you what mine are, but every suspension product is very different. These dampers will be very different to potentially what you've got in your suspension. So don't just plug these into like a RockShox fork or shock and think it's going to feel exactly the same. They're all different. A Fox 38, 170mm travel. It's an air fork, so it's sprung with air. I've got 112 psi in the leg and 2.5 tokens. I cut a token in half because I liked the 2 and I liked the 3, and then I tried something down the middle and liked it more. Probably just placebo. Did I really notice? I don't know. But that's what I've got in the fork. Spring leg. On the compression side, there's high speed and there's low speed compression. When we talk about clicks, we talk about 5 clicks from closed. So whatever the number is, you close the damper all the way and then count out. Contrary to that, the high speed, I've just got fully open. So ignore the number, there is no clicks of compression on that. Well, there's actually all the clicks. You wind it all the way to the minus sign, is what I've done. On the low speed front, I've got 10 clicks. So all the way in and then count out 10. The rebound, I'm actually going to put that in the comments because I can't remember. I'll put that in the caption, I promise. I don't want to tell the wrong number. On the shock, we have got a spring shock, which works super well, spring or coil, whatever you want to call it, on this bike. It's a progressive bike, and I really like that. The number is hidden, but it's 475 spring, 160mm travel. The settings, I'm remembering now, high speed compression. Come on, shoot this down, as I remember how I did it.
Go on then.
High speed compression, the big 6mm, that is 5 clicks from closed. The 3mm inside, the low speed compression, is 6 clicks from closed. And finally the rebound, the little 3mm, the low speed rebound, is 9 clicks. And that's the same as this guy up here. That was helpful, wasn't it?
Yeah, useful.
That was true, I remembered it well.
How much do you weigh, John?
Oh, great question, Dan, thank you. Are you looking at...
Well, I'm just thinking the fork's quite firm, aren't they?
I actually weigh 90 kilos now, 91. But when I was racing this only 7 weeks ago, I was about 84. So actually I'm going to have to change these settings. Thanks, Dan.
That's all right, big man.
Let's talk about the seat. I don't have a seat sponsor, and this looks pretty funky, but I run it. It's actually a women's seat, I believe. I run that because it's really short. It puts all the weight through your buttocks, and I found I'd get quite a numb willy when I was doing long climbs, and this has solved the problem. So we smile when we're embarrassed, but that was a genuine concern, and this Specialized saddle, Specialized Mimic, it's got written on it, solved the numb dick problem. Thanks. Cranks. I've only just put these on the bike. They're sick. They really are sick. They're from Unite. They're the Unite cranks, but they're now doing this splatter paint job. You can literally choose the base colour of the crank and then 2 splatter colours. I chose this similar colour with my frame. I think it looks tremendous. And they're going to stay on for quite some time. Unite pedals. Have a look at this, Dan. Big, angry flats, but the guys put my initials in them, which is sick.
Surprised to see you on flats, John.
I know, thanks, Dan. I thought it's the best option for me coming back with my ankle injury when I do go for a ride, which will be soon. But they etch them, they can do that for anyone. You can get your initials etched into those, whatever you want. Really proud of them. Pause. Right, moving swiftly on. Where should we go, Dan?
Shall we have a look at them wheels? Yeah.
Let's have a look. Get in here. Get a close up. Them graphics. Those puppies. They're Mavic D-Max wheels. They're the Sam Hill limited edition ones. So he's not anymore, I don't think, on Mavic with Chain Reaction Cycles team. And these are his limited edition D-Max wheels. I've raced a few races on them and haven't had to touch a spoke yet. The spokes are really thick bladed spokes, which I think look burly and isn't something that I see on many other wheels. So they are really cool. The tyres are Goodyear. Goodyear Newtons, front and back. Now the front tyre, we can have a look at that, is different to the back. It's a sort of a bigger knob profile, a bit like you, Dan. Lots of grip on the front and then a faster rolling rear. You buy these as a pair. That's the front, that's the rear. I am going to try putting the front on the rear for some steeper tracks.
What about rear on the front?
Maybe for like a dual slalom race or something, for real fast rolling.
When you get putting the power down with the front on the back.
I haven't put the power down yet. Ever. But no, so the tyres are awesome. PSI wise, this has just come out of the garage. Should be a bit harder. At a race, I'd actually go softer than a lot of people would, and I'd probably go 24, 21, unless it was savage rocky like Fort William or something. These are Enduro casing, which are plenty thick enough for everything I've done. So yeah, a lot of people go really hard and think it will save their wheels and protect them from punctures. Punctures maybe, but unless you're actually hitting the rim because your tyres are that soft, I think my wheels last better having a bit more cushion in them, especially with a strong casing tyre like this. Inside the tyre is Milk It sealant. Sealant is sealant, right? But I think I'm really pleased with that. The application of it is all through the valve. You can do that while keeping air in your tyre. You don't have to let all the pressure out to check and do your sealant. So that's a cool product. Dan, we're running out of things. Brakes, we've talked about brake levers. I think we'll talk about rotors. Again, they're just XTR rotors, but they're 200mm or 203mm, I think, for Shimano. Every little helps.
Yeah, very precise.
Thank you. I'd always run the biggest rotors that they do, essentially. Some SRAM brakes do even bigger rotors, I think are 230. Maybe they'd be too big for Enduro, but I don't know, like, I get a lot of arm pump pulling on the brakes on really long tracks. Brakes get hot, you have to pull them harder. These don't fade too bad, but unless you want to get the weight down or you think that your brakes are just far too grabby, if you're doing big mountain stuff, just get big rotors. Just really powerful brakes that aren't going to fade. So that's a winner. Dan, I'm looking down. Gears?
Gears, yeah. How many gears have you got?
Gears. I'd ordinarily have a chain device on the front, but I've just fitted these cranks and I was lazy.
Did you fit them?
No, actually, thank you, Liam, at Propane for fitting them. It wasn't me. 12 speed, long cage, XTR, big boy cassette. Some of the riders at EWS actually use the, what would you call it, a smaller range, shorter... Closer ratio. Thank you, Dan, again.
That's all right.
Cassette. They probably run a slightly smaller chainring on the front, and then you'd get, you know, when you're shifting down the cassette and it's like kung, 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 because it's a big range between each cog, it gets rid of that and they're a bit more fluid between the gears. I've played around with it, but I really like having quite a big front chainring. Mine's a 34. So even when I'm down the bottom of the cassette, I don't like spinning really fast, I kind of like churning the pedals. So to get away with that larger front chainring, I need to have the big, I think it's 51 dinner plate cassette on the back. Well, is there anything else, Dan? It's a size large, should have started with that. I'm 6 foot tall. Well, that's what I used to put on the dating website, so I'm actually 5'11 and a half, but never mind. Dan,
what seat tube angle is it?
I don't know. I don't have anything else to say, but my next video will be my first ride back on a mountain bike. I think it really will. It's been, I think, 8 weeks. Seeing physio, everything's gone really well. Like I said, went up to see Johnny and got some exercises and it's all coming back strong. I am taking it easy with this sort of recovery period. People have been plagued with ankle injuries and I don't want to be one of them. So I've been careful, but I'm so excited to be back in the woods. I'm going to be excited to be back on the bike in the next video, probably in a few days, going for a light pedal. Will you come with me, Dan?
I'll join you, John.
Excellent. Thanks for videoing.
That's all right.
Brilliant, guys. Well, add comments if you want any more information. I probably missed something really fundamental, but hopefully that is everything. Bring it to my belly, Dan. Whoop!
To the sky.